Welcome to What's the Tea Tuesday, where we discuss relevant news and information for Harper College students. I'm Erin Graff, the Interim Associate Dean of Students.
And I'm Melanie the Club and Organization Liaison and Interim Administrative Assistant to the Dean of Students. Today we are welcoming Harper College's new Provost, Dr. MaryAnn Janosik. Welcome, Dr. Janosik. How have your first few weeks at Harper been?
Thank you, Melanie and Erin. It's good to be here today. Oh, my first few weeks at Harper have been kind of a whirlwind, I think. Lots of people to meet virtually and in real time. Lots of things to learn and catch up on. And Dr. Proctor has just done a wonderful job of working with me before I actually arrived with some transition meetings. So I had a lot of materials and things to look at ahead of time. And even though I know we're in a virtual environment right now, which makes some of the meeting a little bit more challenging, everyone has really made me feel very welcome. And I already feel like I'm a part of the Harper community that doesn't feel new anymore. It feels good. It feels comfortable. And so I look forward to continuing to meet people virtually and when it's safe, on campus. I've been to campus a couple times, and I look forward to the time when we'll all be back there and engaging in ways that are a little bit more social.
Well, we are so happy that you're feeling welcome because we are so excited to have you, and we thank you for joining us. So can you share a little bit about your background in higher education?
I would be happy to. My background in higher education is probably a little bit non-traditional from many people who either stay in teaching or go into administration. I've done both. I started as a faculty member at a small liberal arts college in Ohio. I'm from Cleveland, and I took my doctoral work at Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland. So while I was in graduate school, I taught high school. And then when I graduated, I took a college teaching position, started doing research in popular culture, and film and music are my two areas that I enjoy the most, and began to develop courses in those areas. And then something happened that I sometimes call my momentary lapse of reason, but it was a once in a lifetime opportunity. And that was to be the education director at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So I left a tenured teaching position to become the education director. I was there for a couple years, and then realized that I might have something to offer in higher ed administration. So I took my first deanship down the street at Oakton Community College, and since then it's been an interesting journey. I've been a campus dean, I've been a provost at St. Joseph's College, not too far away in Indiana. I've been the head of a virtual high school at Stanford University, and most recently have done some consulting work. I think if there's a theme, it's all academic and student-centered kinds of work that I've done. So I've done a lot of work with curriculum, done a lot of work with student success, and I think that's the teacher in me that is still really focused on helping students realize their dreams, working with faculty to provide the best kind of resources and the best opportunities for students. And so I started at a community college, and coming back to Harper for me is not just a full circle. It holds a lot of meaning for me in terms of what a community college did for my own experience in higher education and my own career. I often say that if it wasn't for the professors I had at Lorain County Community College in Ohio, I don't think I would have had the career path that I've had. I don't think I would have thought about some of the opportunities that might have been available to me. So I still am in touch with some of them, and I feel now like everything they did to help me and everything I've done to prepare has brought me to Harper. And so that's a very good feeling to have.
Well, and I have to say, I mean, that's such a great, wonderful path, and something that really sticks out to me is the courageous leap to leave a tenured position to pursue a role at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So I think that's great, but I have to know, what's the secret? What is your favorite rock and roll song?
Oh gosh, well, too many rock songs in too little time, right? I appreciate your kind comment. I've had a few people who said to me, "What were you thinking?" when I took that leap, but it was fun. It was a very creative experience for me, and yes, I did get to meet a few rock stars while I was there. I think if you wanted a favorite rock song, there's one that comes back to me. Part of it is probably my age, because I'm kind of, came into my adulthood in the early 80s and that. So it's U2, and I still haven't found what I'm looking for. There's just something very haunting about that song that comes back to me very often. And interestingly, I think in what we've been talking about, I listened to it the other day as we were making our way to Harper to visit the campus. And I thought to myself, maybe that title doesn't hold quite the same meaning. It's still my favorite song, but I feel like I found the right place. So, but that's the song that plays in my head sometimes.
Well, thank you for sharing. And I have to say, I think you stole my line, because I was going to say, I hope that with Harper, you finally found what you've been looking for. So hopefully that will hold true.
I sometimes tell people, ask me again, because there are so many wonderful rock and roll songs. Simon and Garfunkel's The Sound of Silence, which some people think is more folk than rock, but there are just so many wonderful songs. And I used to tell my students when I would teach the history of rock and roll, that if you think about what is popular at different times in your life, the music will come back to you sometimes 10, 20 years later, and you'll think, oh, I was at Harper then, or I was on my first date, or I was doing, and so I think music to me is just one of the most powerful influences. I know it's been in my life, and I think it's one of those things that's kind of there, and you may not be aware of it, but it can have a very big impact, I think, on who you are and what you're feeling at a particular time.
Yes, I absolutely love that. I agree completely.
I agree completely as well. You listen to a song and it takes you right back to where you were the first time you heard it.
It does. Absolutely.
Dr. Janosik, for our viewers who may not know, can you describe the role of the provost at Harper College?
Sure. The provost sometimes has a slightly different role depending on whether you're at a community college or a four-year institution. Sometimes the provost is considered the kind of the second person in line to the president and works very closely with the president. That certainly is true at Harper, in that I do work very closely with Dr. Proctor, but also with the executive team and the executive council. At Harper, the provost oversees both academic and student affairs. So I work directly with all of the academic deans. I also work very closely with student development, with Dr. Atkinson, with Dean of Students Harton, and with athletics. All of those programs roll up through the provost's office. So I know that in some institutions, academic and student affairs are separated and you have different individuals heading them. I do like the idea and the model that Harper has, because I think academic and student affairs really fit together like this. It's not faculty here and students here. It's what can you do to encourage new academic programs? How do you find the resources for faculty, not only for professional development, but helping them do what they do better? And how does that all tie into student success? So it's nice to have all of those stakeholders at the table when you have a meeting, because that way I think you understand academic deans are engaged with student development and vice versa. And so I think it creates more of an education of the whole person kind of a culture and environment. And so I think that's very important. I also do, as a provost, you work a lot. I have a budget to oversee, and work with new faculty hires and staffing and things of that sort. At Harper, I believe the provost has the largest group of employees on campus to oversee. So it is a big job, and it can be daunting but I think for me, what I discovered during my research on Harper and during the interview process is that if you have really strong individuals in the key roles, dean of students, academic deans, and so on, associate provosts, and you're comfortable letting other people do their job, which I am, it kind of frees me up to do some of the bigger picture institutional planning that a provost really should be doing. So it's a lot of listening to people, it's a lot of working with different stakeholders, but ultimately for me, it's great to say to a dean, I know what it means to be a dean, go do your job. And then bring back to me what your ideas are and what kinds of things you'd like to do going forward. I think it changes the molecules in the room a little bit, and it changes the conversation in what I hope is a good way, in that it allows more innovation and more opportunities to really find pathways for success to students, because that's really, to me, that's why we're here. You know, that's the core. So, so that's a provost at Harper, and I'm still learning a lot about the college, so more to come, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And while we're on the topic of college, we want you to spill the tea and tell us, what were you like as a college student?
Oh gosh. Well, some people don't believe this anymore, but I was very shy. I was a very shy college student. I took music lessons from the time I was about 7 years old. I played the organ. And, you know, if you later go into rock and roll, classical pipe organ is not considered really cool. And I was very shy. I was very shy in school. So my undergraduate years were very transformational for me. I transferred from Lorain Community College to Oberlin. And the best thing about that for me was there were probably a lot of other geeks like me there. You know, they were very studious and very committed to getting a good education. And so it was awkward, but it for some reason the environment there worked for me. And I think it gave me the confidence when I decided I wanted to go on to graduate school. And that's where the little inner MaryAnn probably came out. I think through teaching and being in a graduate seminar, I really discovered that I had a voice, and I just had to find the confidence to get it out. And that happened for me in graduate school. So that, I think that would probably, I was a little Miss Type A, you know, not quite like Reese Witherspoon in the movie Election, not quite that to that extent. She's a little more outgoing than me in many ways. But yeah, I was quiet and studious. I read a lot. And my mother used to tell me after I graduated college, she used to say, "What happened to you? Where did this come from?" And I said, it was here. I just needed, you know, I needed a little encouragement. So that was me as a college student. And my students never believe it when I tell them that I was shy. They said, nah, but I was, so.
Perfect. What else should we know about you?
What else should you know about me? Well, let's see. I still like to read a lot. I'm a historian, so I do enjoy memoir and biography. Very much interested in women's history and women's studies and that experience. I also, as I think I said earlier, I used to teach courses in popular culture, and that includes rock and roll and film. And I, for about, not quite 20 years now, but I've been, at the encouragement again of my students, I write my Oscar predictions every year, and they're lengthy and they're dense for some people, because it's not just the prediction, it's why, and you know, all this other stuff. So I try to make it a history lesson as well as a prediction. I have a pretty good accuracy rate, about 95% correct. And I do all the categories. So I do everything from makeup to best picture. And last year I started a blog for the first time. So I have a blog called MJ at the Movies. And you might want to check it out. I haven't posted for a little while now with my transition to Harper, but I try to write about things other than just Oscar predictions, just, you know, things that I see or that I'm observing in popular culture. So that's what I've started. I'm also I'm a certified Zumba instructor. And I have done that in my free time in other lives and other places. I've taught Zumba classes. So I'm hoping that maybe that'll happen here at Harper. So it's a great release. I love to dance. I love the diversity of the music in Zumba. And I don't know when I've done anything else where people smile so much when they're leaving the class. And that's kind of a good memory to take with you when you're leaving class, is to know that you've made people feel better about themselves. So that's what I do in my free time. My husband is a retired English professor from Ohio University. And when it's safe again, we enjoy trying new restaurants. And as I said, I used to live in Chicago in this area. So it's fun to be back. It's fun to see what's new. And we look forward to doing more exploring when the time is right. So yeah, but reading, concerts, music, all that. That's I like to find what I call a work-life balance and an integration. And so I try to keep my rock and roll references to a minimum when I meet with the executive council, but sometimes they just come out. You know, it's all part of who I am. So.
It makes life fun, right?
I hope it also lets people see that you're a little bit human too. That, I mean, when you hear the title Provost or Dean, you know, I think there's a kind of gravitas that comes with it. And I think one of the things that I did, I was a vice president for academic affairs at a community college in upstate New York recently. And I started offering my Zumba class a couple times a week. And the staff started coming, and at first they were a little bit, you know, and then after we did it, it was like, well, we didn't think that someone who was a vice president would do that. And I said, well, that's part of the point, because there are other parts to me besides just coming in and doing administrative work, and all of that kind of is part of the whole. So I hope people see that. I think that my experience here since I've been at Harper, and certainly the conversations that I've had with Dr. Proctor, is that I see that quality in a lot of the senior leadership, that there's a humanity there, there's a compassion there, and that all kind of funnels right back up into a real determination and a commitment to students, and that's important. And having been at other campuses, I can say that not every campus has that same kind of mosaic of individuals who are bringing different talents, but all have a kind of common focus. And to find that is a wonderful thing.
Absolutely. And I think that you should start clearing your calendar for the fall now, because I think we're going to have to bring you into one of our virtual workout programs. You can lead your own Zumba class. I'm sure we will happy to take you up on that. And I think I need to bring you into a trivia team, because with your knowledge in pop culture and history and women's studies, I mean, I think you're the perfect teammate. So consider yourself booked.
I will. I'd love that. You just tell me where and when, and I will make room on my calendar.
All right, you got it. So I have one last question for you to kind of wrap up our questions. What are some of your goals for the upcoming school year?
Well, I think a lot of things in the provost office really speak to the college's strategic plan. So I've had an opportunity to look at the strategic plan, the priorities, the operational plan, so that I can fit into that and move some of those projects forward. I obviously don't work in a vacuum, so everything we do kind of rolls back up into the strategic plan. But I think there are a couple of initiatives that are on the kind of in the queue for me. One is that I've reconvened the modalities committee. So we're looking right now at the spring schedule, and we're hoping to have that finalized and out and posted sometime in late September, early October, so that we stay on track with that. I'm really working closely with the deans on developing new academic programs, looking at new and innovative teaching methods, really encouraging faculty to look outside the box for remote opportunities and different strategies, different platforms that they can bring their classes to students in a remote environment. And I think also a big project I know that Dr. Proctor has been committed to is making sure that we have the appropriate, robust support services for students. And right now we're in the process of looking at telehealth options for students, so that we not only have tutoring and other kinds of academic support, but we have the other kinds of personal support that students may be looking for too. So I'm hoping that we'll have an announcement on that one very soon. And then, you know, the day-to-day stuff, we keep moving forward. We've got some new partnerships that we're developing, and when it's appropriate, I'll certainly be working in the community, looking at strengthening some of our partnerships with our K-12 schools and some of the greater universities that are in the area. So lots coming. And when you want to, you know, pour the tea again, we'll do it.
Perfect.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Janosik. We look forward to working with you both virtually and on campus when it's safe in the future.
Well, I do too, and I appreciate the time to talk to both of you this morning and to share some of my experience with the Harper community, and I do look forward to more conversations soon.
Wonderful. Thank you.